All we need is a little understanding. Walk a mile in their shoes. And if we keep our hearts open-minded, we'll enjoy this wild ride called life. And if we keep our hearts open-minded, we'll enjoy this wild ride called life.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Truths We Hide podcast. I am really excited to introduce you to someone named Sherianna Boyle. She has a it's amazing bio. If you go to her website, she grew up in a small town. She ended up writing a book, and then she's been doing amazing things ever since then. So I just can't wait for you to hear her story. So thank you, Sherianna, for being on here today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Sherianna as a person before we get into your coaching and all these things that you do.
Sure. Well, like you said, I grew up in a pretty small town. I actually grew up uh, in living near my husband. So he and I grew up in the same hometown together. So I've known him since I was 12 years old. And so I mean, I don't know what you want to know about me. I guess is the question. How much do you want about my background?
So, growing up in a small town, were you
Yeah.
surrounded by other people who, um, how do I put it? How did you get to where you are today with writing about emotional detox?
Okay.
Family.
Well, Emotional Detox is actually my seventh book.
Okay.
I actually have nine books.
Yeah.
Um, Emotional Detox is the seventh. The ninth one doesn't come out until September of 2021.
Okay.
So I have eight books that are out there now. Emotional Detox is number seven in the line. It is a story. I mentioned my husband because he's in the book, and it is a bit about our story of, I call it my love story, but like a lot of love stories, there's ups and downs and challenges and heartbreak and all that kind of stuff in there. So, Emotional Detox, how I got to writing that book is I well, I always say I could have never written that book had I not written six others before it. So I feel like each one played a little role in leading to Emotional Detox. And then soon after that, I would write Emotional Detox for Anxiety. As far as growing up, I mean, I dibbled and dabbled with writing and journaled and things like that. I was always pretty introspective as a teenager and as a child, and I was okay being by myself, which I think is kind of nice if you actually are enjoy your own company. And I always said I never got bored, and I lived in the country, but I always felt like there was just something to kind of imagine in your mind. And I think that would later resurface. But really, in my younger years, it was just kind of more getting my feelings out there, talking about my life, maybe a little bit here and there, talking about how maybe things going on around me. And I really wouldn't start writing, however, until I took a leave of absence from my job as a school psychologist in a school to have my first daughter. And it was in that time period that I realized I was pretty spent, and I had, like a lot of people, I'd gone through a lot of schooling. I went and got a little bit beyond my master's, and then I went right into my career, because that's what you do when you work that hard to get a degree. Then you're like, I got to get a job, and then you hustle. And then when I got pregnant to take that leave, I realized, oh my God, like I really haven't taken a break. I mean, I just went from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And I realized I was exhausted, and I realized I was running my life in a way that could not last any longer. and I wasn't the way I wanted to be in the world anymore. It wasn't supporting my relationship with my husband. It wasn't helping me as a person. I wasn't feeling well, had a lot of anxiety. And that's when I started picking up that notebook again and jotting down ideas because I had a little bit of time and thinking about, okay, when I do go back to work, because I really believed I was going back to that job once I had my baby, um, how's it going to be? How are you going to live your life? And that's really when it all started, when I started to really get into writing and researching. And now I'm a psychology professor. So, so it's all kind of woven together over time.
That's really interesting. How did you? So you said growing up, you wanted to talk about your feelings, or you were able to. So was that not the norm,
Mm.
but was it comfortable being able to do that? Because I know when I was growing up, you just didn't do that.
Yeah, well, we had, a lot of trauma growing up, and I was very close with my mother. She was probably my best friend. Um, and she relied on me a lot emotionally, which probably wasn't the most healthiest thing in the world for looking back now that I'm a psychologist. But, it really certainly did open me up to this field. But we actually moved to the country because we were there were a series of events that had happened in my childhood. My parents' marriage was terrible. There was a lot of alcoholism around me. There were some really tragic things that had occurred. And as a result, we were kind of the talk of the town. So we were kind of that family where I remember families on my street saying, don't play with her, don't get involved, you need to, and I could feel it as a child, kids kind of moving away from me. There was one that did not, and her dad was a principal. So I remember that he sort of had that ability to understand, have the bigger picture. But people were naturally afraid. And I understand as a mother, you don't want your kid to go over someone's house that's falling apart and breaking down. So when we moved to the country, it was because I remember begging my mom and saying, we need to move, because I just felt like, probably like a lot of people feel, like I I'm never gonna change their minds. That's as a growing as grow in that way growing up, they've kind of put a label on me, and I was a really good kid. It was crazy stuff going on. So she listened actually, and we just moved over the border and into the next state. And it actually ended up being a really great thing because we had nothing around us and we could take walks. And I remember her asking me, how are you doing? Anything wrong? And I would never have an answer for her. I was kind of closed up. But I do think that just having that space to just kind of like going on retreat, that feeling you get when you get away from it all. And there wasn't much stimulation. There wasn't much to do. So I do think that was a huge part of my healing, was just being in the country.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you sharing that because it's, like I said, growing up, we just didn't really talk about our feelings like that. So, and then I think into my adulthood, it was almost like, well, if I do, will I be
Mm.
judged and things like that. So it's really nice to hear that you were able to be in that space to do that. So, so coming from that background, what led you to? You said you dabbled in some writing here and there. So, what led you to actually going forth with publishing a book?
Um, because I had done so much schooling, um, I when you get trained to be a school psychologist, you have to do a lot of writing with reports. Um, and I actually kind of liked it, even though it was a lot of work and there were strict deadlines. I look back now and I realize it was the perfect job to prepare me for being a writer, because I could I could meet deadlines like that and I could pull all the pieces together. And so when you're a school psychologist, you have to take in all these different areas, people's information and the parents, the child, the teachers, the everybody, and you have to pull it all together to make sense. And I feel like that job was really good training to be a writer because when I took my leave of absence, like I said, I decided to just start writing. What, how's it going to be when I go back? And it really was from the scope of not just me, but how could we do this better as a system? I was thinking about maybe things I would put in place. And then I got an editor because I needed support and then she helped me kind of create a book with it and I put it out there and I started teaching at night and I never went back. I decided I was going to go out there and just kind of be more of a speaker and run groups and classes. And then lo and behold, one day I was actually at my daughter's preschool, one of them. I have three daughters now. And someone approached me and said, I hear you wrote a book. And I said, yes. And they said, could you write a book on anxiety for children that's more mindful? Because I had been studying a ton of mindfulness. And I said, yeah, sure. And so they gave me an assignment to rewrite a book that was already written, which is kind of interesting. So I took that book apart and then I had to rewrite the same book. Um, and then I had 5 weeks to do that. I did it. I did it in 5 weeks. And they were like, wow, she can meet a deadline. She's pretty good. So they gave me another assignment. Can you now write this? And I said, sure. And they said, you have 7 weeks. And I said, okay. And I did it in 5.
Oh my God.
And they were like, holy moly, like if we need something done, we know who to call, right? And so I just realized I had, again, I think it was my training as a school psychologist, having to do like a million reports with very strict, I mean, we were of the law, it's by law, I had to have things done. And I think it just prepared me to be a writer. Now I don't do 6 weeks, 7 weeks anymore. Now I actually don't even talk about what my next project is because I don't want it on me. So now detox took longer and so did emotional detox for anxiety. But all 9 of them were produced in 9 years.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
still incredible. Booking.
Yeah.
So you talk.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's that's incredible. And so is did you want to become a psychologist because of the trauma that you went through as a child, or what led you to want to be a psychologist?
I think it was I actually was in business first and I remember switching majors and it was really a professor that inspired me and I think it was just the time of my life where I needed a source of inspiration, those moments where I was in school and I wasn't really happy and it just that one professor that I remember his lecture kind of making me excited about learning again. And I thought, this is really interesting. And then I just started to look into all the different jobs that, were possible for me. And again, I don't know if being a flat out psychologist would have prepared me for writing. It's kind of divine because when you do other kinds of work, you don't have to do those kinds of report writing. So I think it all was meant to be the
Yeah.
direction that I went in. But I think my mother probably, the fact that she used to tell me all the time, she used to be like, you're so beyond your years. You're so what, she was always like really sweet like that. Wow, you don't realize you really know a lot. And I don't, and I think I just thrived off that because I didn't really feel like I was very good at anything else. But um, so I think in some ways I was shaped for this field.
That's wonderful. Well, God definitely had a plan.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so I'm curious to you say your seventh book or your yeah,
Uh-huh.
Emotional Detox. You write
Yeah.
about more about you and your husband. Was it scary to put that part of yourself out there?
Mm. Yeah. Well, I had planned on writing Emotional Detox. I had done all the research and I had presented it to Simon and Schuster, and they got back to me and said, this looks good, but you need to do more work. And I said, okay. So I went back and I did more work. And then I went back to them again. And then they approved it to move forward. And after that, it was probably, I don't know, 5 weeks later. Um, that's when I was hit with some really traumatic news in my life, and it would really affect me. It would affect my marriage. And I remember I had to go to the publisher and tell them that I couldn't write the book. I was in crisis, and they were great. They said, just when you can. And so I had to write Emotional Detox, not just from the standpoint, and this is where it's very different than all the other books. It wasn't just me researching and sharing information. It was now I was actually in need of an emotional detox myself. And I went through the process as I was writing it. Now, I would wait to write it because I literally was not capable of writing for a while. But when I was able to get myself up again and pick up my computer, that's when I started to really explore this concept. But now I had the lens of somebody who would be picking up that book and what it would be like to go through that. So I really wrestled with it. I struggled with it and I worked out a lot of the things that needed to be worked through. And I feel like it came out really great in the end. I know it did because it has a system in it called cleanse, and I call it the cleanse method. And it's my own method for helping people. And it's really taken off. I've had people who are psychologists, people who are healers, people who are social workers tell me, I can't believe you created this method. And I can't even believe I created it. I think it was channeled, and it's so darn effective. Um, so I didn't intend to write about my husband and I. Um, that happened because of the trauma. And then that I planned on it. And was it nervous? Yeah, I was nervous. I wanted it to be done with integrity. I wanted it to be done in a way where people, um, it wasn't just a book about me, it is a book about a lot of different themes are woven in through that, as well as the cleanse method. And I also wanted to honor my children in case they ever picked it up. And I'm writing about, their father. So it had to be really it's authentic. It says just enough without overboard. Because I think people can go overboard and make it too much about them.
Yeah.
Um, it's enough so people can relate on many, many, many levels.
Oh gosh. I love that because I'm actually in the middle of well, I just submitted my book to my publisher, and it's a
Oh,
memoir, and there were
uh,
certain things in there about my life that I had to uh like with you, I wanted to make sure I said enough and not everything to honor my kids, my family. And it was difficult to do that. So hearing you say that is that yeah, I just resonated with, and I appreciate it because you want to help people and you're sharing your story to do so, and so that's huge. That really is.
yeah. Well, you have to know that when you say stories, you could trigger somebody, and you can influence them. And so it is a delicate little dance, but when it comes out right, you won't look back.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked at that book in a long time. I don't even remember how I wrote it, what's in it, but people really relate to it. I hear it all the time.
So you wrote the book Emotional Detox for Anxiety as well, right?
Yeah, that came a year later, and
Okay.
mainly because people were asking me how to use the cleanse method with anxiety. And I realized that I needed to build a foundation for that because I don't really treat anxiety the same way. I mean, I define anxiety as an emotion attempting to be processed but can't because we won't let it. So that's my definition. And so emotional detox for anxiety is based on that foundation, that the reason there's anxiety is there's unprocessed emotions. And if you focus on the symptoms, you're going to miss it.
Wow. I like that. I yeah. I like that because I mean I suffer from anxiety and I have a lot of friends that do, but I'm in our military community we do have a lot of veterans that suffer from it after after we transition out. But I
Mm,
like hearing how you have this method for I mean let me back up. Not all military, not everybody. I don't want people to just think that military suffer from anxiety. Everyone does. So
mhm.
I appreciate that you have this book out there to share that. So I think that everyone needs to read it because we all have, or we can all suffer from a little piece of anxiety in different ways. And so now gosh, tell me about the four gifts of anxiety.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean that came out that's a little bit older, but it's what that book is about is really tools that are completely mindful, all healing based, tools that are what they do is they transform the anxiety. So it's not that you're getting rid of it, you're transforming it into something new. And that talks about the gifts, that you'll receive from that process. It was endorsed by the National Association of Mental Health, which I was really excited to hear. I feel like that's, people strive for different things, so I was really happy with that. And then again, emotional detox for anxiety, really how those two books different is the four gifts has a lot of exercises and tools. Emotional detox for anxiety has the cleanse method, so it has a specific program, so it's laid out step by step because people with anxiety need sort of a structure. They need to know, okay, step one, step two, right? So that's how emotional detox for anxiety came to be, was really creating a framework that people could follow on their own.
No, that's really important because sometimes we just don't know what to do and
Yeah,
we can't always see our therapist right when we need to. So if we could just
exactly. That's right. Yes.
that's so helpful. So you also have you teach meditation, you practice it. I was trying to I couldn't
Yeah, so I teach it according to the cleanse. I the cleanse is the seven-step mindful process of the steps of an emotional detox, which is very can be very meditative. And so I teach it in that way, not maybe not like other people teach it. I teach it using the cleanse.
perfect.
Yeah.
And so we could find all of that part, the cleansing. Oh, and the
Hmm.
cleanse yoga too.
Hmm.
On your website cleanselife.com.
Well, Sheriannaboyle.com.
That's
So
right.
my name, Sheriannaboyle.com, has all the books and coaching and classes that I do. Cleanselife.com has the yoga videos and meditations,
Okay.
and they connect. So if you go to Sheriannaboyle.com and you click cleanse yoga, you'll click over to the other site and click back. It's just a little neater and nicer that way for people to have two different areas to go to.
That's perfect. So
Yeah.
where do you see yourself going in the next few years? What do you want to do next?
Well, I'm writing I have one book coming out in October. and then I have the 10th one in the works. And it's pretty incredible. It's probably going to be the best book I've ever written. Um, the new one coming out is going to be incredible too, because the one in October has 135 emotional detoxes in it,
Oh,
self-guided. So people are going to be able to take themselves through 135 emotional detoxes.
oh,
It's yeah, it's going to be incredible. Yeah. I know. It's energetically extremely strong. So I'm writing the next one, which I didn't get this book until I did those 135 emotional. I didn't even think I had anything. I'm like, what? How could I possibly write about anything else? But after I did those 135 emotional detoxes, something major in me shifted. I'm going to be heading in a new direction. Yeah.
that
So people will see after I haven't even had it picked up yet, but I've had pe- I've had publishers call me about it. So I know it's huge. Um, so just know when you go through those 135 emotional detoxes, hold on to your hats because you don't know what's going to happen. It's, by the way, the cleanse method is also the method for manifesting.
wow.
I found that out accidentally. I was using it. Well, I had been crossing it because I had written Mantras Made Easy and I had written Choosing Love. So I had written and I made sure that all the language, everything was lined up with the spiritual laws of the universe. I'd made everything. So it's no surprise that all of a sudden things started manifesting. Um, but yeah, so that again, that won't be out for a while. And if people just want to subscribe to my website, then they'll be informed when it's out, or if they want to, follow me on social media or whatever. So, but definitely, if you see it, grab it out there because it's powerful.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
I can't wait. That
me
in
too.
my
Well, maybe I can come back on the show.
yeah, absolutely, because I want to.
That would be the best thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Where
yeah.
on social media can people find you? What are you listed under?
Well, Facebook, I'm author Sherianna Boyle. So
Okay.
if they just go my name, and then Instagram is Sherianna.boyle, which
Okay.
I think I already followed you on there.
Oh, okay.
I might have. I don't know. I try to make sure follow people, and yeah. So, but for now, those two books, reading those, emotional detox anxiety will give you exactly what you need and to prepare you for the next few things that are coming out.
That's amazing.
And good luck with your book, by the way. That
Thank,
sounds pretty awesome.
thank you. I'm excited and nervous, but
I
yeah,
bet. Yeah.
you also have a podcast, the Emotional Detox Podcast.
Yeah. So there's a couple things. We're in transition. So it's actually Emotional Detox is a radio show.
Okay.
It's hosted by healthylife.net, which is a lot of shows on there. That every Wednesday at 2, I'm on the radio, and then there's replays and downloads and all that stuff. Emotional Detox, now my podcast is transitioning to, it's called Emotional Detox Now.
Okay.
And what I do on that podcast, I have a co-host, and we actually do sort of like these. It's kind of fun. We talk about things, and then we go off the air, and we go through a cleanse, and then we get back on the air, and we show you how our conversation changes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really fun, and the last time was really kind of interesting. I was kind of blown away. So basically the concept is when you process your emotions, your conversations will sound and feel different.
Oh gosh. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
So
head.
that's the Emotional Detox Now. That's transitioning to a co-host, and then I'm on the radio. On the radio, I do a little segment of cleansing, but I do a lot of I really great guests. Really, you know how hard it is to get guests. I don't think people realize how hard
I know.
unless they have a podcast, or it takes a lot of legwork, to
It
a
really.
lot of back and forth, right?
It,
So yeah, you get, it's exciting when you nail it because you're like, wow, you know,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some words of wisdom that you would want to leave to somebody today that's going through anxiety or that need that emotional detox and don't know how to start?
I think that I know on the outside the world looks really scary, but I think we're actually we're heading into a much better time. Um, and a lot of what you're feeling is really just this idea of what it looks like when people feel separate or alone or disconnected and things like that. But I think that my message always is there's only one emotion and it's love. The rest is a reaction. That's it. And if you look at it from that lens, your life will be easier. That was my lens when I went through my emotional detox. I could not think about, oh, I feel this today, I feel that today. It would make me nuts and crazy, right? Because it pulls in all sorts of triggers. There's only one emotion and it's love. And love is not like happiness, right? We have these images in media that it's like, we have to be in love and this and that. Love is just whole. You feel whole. You feel yourself. That's love. You can just be yourself, and it's the most beautiful feeling in the world when you can just be you. Don't try to be like anybody else but yourself because you're going out of love. So you do it your way and you be guided. Some of the best things I ever did was I broke away from situations and people where I felt like I had to be like them. The moment I kind of let go of that and I just let myself, it's the way I see it, it's through my lens, it's through my experiences. They're all there for a reason. So don't try to make your lens and see the world through their lens. See it through your lens. And then just let it come out naturally and it will all work out. So again, the only emotion is love. And if you're not in a state of love, you're probably in a reaction, which is fine. You just go through the cleanse and you clear it.
I love that.
It's not like it's all going to stop. I'm not going to try to paint a picture like you're never going to have another reaction. That's not realistic.
Right.
Right? But you don't have to act on it. You can feel it and it can contribute something to the planet.
That's so important. What would you have told yourself? Something that you wish you would have known now? Your younger self.
Oh, my younger self. Oh boy. Um what would I have told my younger self? Um Probably to relax a little bit more.
Definitely.
Right? Just kind of, yeah, don't try to do it all at once kind of thing. And who am I to say after writing all these books? But I will say I get something from writing, and you might have felt that too. Like I can't wait. If I don't write for a couple days, I feel like I don't feel it just I miss it so much.
Yeah.
So I get something whether it's published or not, and lots of times I erase things that I write. I just delete them because they just sound like crap, but in the moment it feels so good just to write. So um I think that I would just tell myself to just do what brings you joy, just do what you love and don't worry about it. And the other thing is as a psychology professor, it's important for people to know that most most of the people that are considered like the Albert Einsteins of the world and um they call them self-actualized, like really reaching their highest potential. They had very small circle of friends, and I think that we this influencer stuff, don't get too caught up in it, and a lot of it's an illusion, and it's really amazed me being on the other side now. I have people with thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of followers that I've spoken to, and they've said to me, can I work with you? I mean, I'll never forget, I had someone who had lots of followers interview me, And at the end of the interview, she said, "Can I do a session with you?" And I said, "Sure, that'd be great." And she said, "I have no money." And I thought to myself, okay, you have no money and you have all those followers?
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in it. Don't think, yeah, right? Just because. And I'm like, that was a really great thing to have happen to me because you just think, oh, they have all this. That means they're doing great. It's, it's not about that, right? It's about quality,
Right.
quality, quality. You could have 10 followers and you could have such a quality, effective life you're really impacting people and really focus on the quality, not the quantity.
You are so right, and I'm so glad you said that because I was just speaking to someone earlier about being an entrepreneur. You know,
Mm.
if you don't have that passion for it, then it won't make a difference because we don't make a lot of money. Entrepreneurs or writers or whatever, we don't make a lot of money. We're doing it because we love to do it, and we keep showing up because we have that passion for it. So you can have 10 followers or you can have 1,000.
Yeah.
Are you providing value? And I think,
Well, and who are your followers? I mean, I'll never forget when my kids thought I was absolutely insane because one day I decided, my Twitter was like really up there, and I was decided to actually look at my followers. I almost freaking died because honestly, it looked like I was a part of some sex trafficking thing. I started looking at, like, literally, "Who are you?" And it was not good. It was the kind that made your stomach turn. Someone must have passed on to some, and all of a sudden I sat there deleting, blocking. My kids were like, "Mom, who cares? It's followers." I'm like, "I care. I don't give a shit." And I literally slashed everything in half. And I am fine with this with quality versus quantity
yes.
because you don't know. And go ahead and try it. Go look at somebody's big feed of followers, and I guarantee you're going to see creepy stuff.
No, you're right. I think last year I did that. The beginning of last year, I had to go through everybody. I'm like, I don't even know you, and your name's not even in English. Like, it was creepy.
You
So,
just don't know. And I don't want to, just get rid of them. Don't blink an eye. Let it go.
yeah, no, exactly. When my daughter first got Instagram, I said, make sure you make it private
Yeah.
and accept who you know because you'll have anybody following you. And yeah,
Anybody and everybody. And they could try, yeah. So really kind of let go. I mean, if it grows, it grows, but it doesn't mean you can't be successful,
yeah.
or it's not a sign of success. Trust me. Followers does not equal success. It's exposure, and maybe people think more, but I think it's all going to change.
Yeah,
I think people are catching on.
yeah. No, you're right. Oh my God. Well,
Yeah.
I've learned so much today, and I really can't wait for that book because I think it's needed for all people, and it's going to be so helpful. And congratulations on all your books. That's incredible. But only not only that you
Oh,
have
thanks.
put your heart into every one of them. You didn't just write it to write it. You actually thought about it and are providing content. And I think that's what's more. I think that is one of the most important things nowadays is not just writing a book just to write it.
Yeah, no, I've never written a book just to write it, and I've never written a book to get clients.
Yeah.
I've just written because it just was coming through me, and if I didn't write it, would have been more toxic than
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's like creativity that just needs a vehicle. And so, but yeah, emotional detox is a great story. You'll love it. Emotional detox for anxiety is a great system that can help you if you're suffering.
Yeah.
Um, and good luck to you with your book. What's your book title?
The wall between two lives.
Ooh, that sounds very nice. The wall between two lives.
So,
That sounds interesting. You've got my interest. I'm like, two lives. Ooh, That sounds great.
Excited. I want to ask
That's really,
one more question because you've written so much.
yeah.
Do you feel, I like to tell people that writing has helped me with my self
Mhm.
healing journey. So, do you feel that writing is a good form of therapy? That it can help you process your feelings and all that?
Um, yes and no. I think it could re-traumatize you if you're
Okay.
bitching, depends what you're writing. If
Okay.
you're venting and if you're recording and keeping, he did this, she said this, they did this, and I just want to make sure I write it down so I never forget what you did to me. What a jerk you were, right?
True.
Uh, if that's your writing, and I've done that, so I know that kind of writing isn't gonna do much. At least it didn't for me and healing. I think that it comes from a space of don't mindfulness. I never write until I've done my cleanse. I
That's
always do the
good.
cleanse and then I write. And the days that I skip it, I usually my writing comes out not very good. And that way I can it's kind of my way of purifying it,
Okay.
right? Because you can put your biases and opinions and in a way and as pure as you possibly can. I'm sure you've found that with your writing journey too, that trying to keep an open heart and mind and um, you do the best you can. I mean, you're
Yeah.
not going to be perfect. You are going to get criticism, by the way.
Yeah.
It's part of the deal. Not everyone's going to love your work.
That's true. That's so true.
Some people, especially when you write about anxiety and, stuff like that, some people get triggered,
Yeah.
you
No,
know. Um, it's just the way it is. And you just have to, just keep on, keep on.
yeah. No, you're so right. Thank you for that. Well, I really enjoyed this, Sherianna. It was really such a pleasure to meet you
You
and to
too.
hear about your work. So I can't wait to keep up. I will be subscribing. So for anybody that's listening, I will put this in the podcast guide. Make sure to go subscribe to keep up with her new book that I actually believe we all need. So
Oh, you're cute. Thank you. And good luck to you too.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.